Welcome to Patty's Aquatics and welcome to my fish room. So when you hear of dirty tanks, they're usually referred to as low maintenance aquariums. I myself have referred to them as low maintenance aquariums when I used to keep them. But now that I've gone back away from dirty tanks and back to those planted inert substrates and really back to the basics when it comes to this hobby, I'm kind of seeing things through a different eyes, I guess you could see. Are they really truly low maintenance compared to other aquariums? Is there really that less maintenance to do? That's what I want to kind of take a look at in this video today. So stick around and hear me out. Low maintenance is a typical moniker you hear referred to for dirty tanks all the time. They're pushed as a style of tank because of their low maintenance for people and hobbyists that may not have the time to spend really doing all this maintenance on aquariums. Now, I've kept dirty tanks for quite a while, and I had planted tanks with inert substrate for years before I had these dirty tanks. Since I got back out of the dirty tanks and back into the normal planted tanks with inert substrate, really back to the basics, my eyes are kind of opening wide again to that. Now, I was one of those people that pushed these dirty tanks as low maintenance because you didn't have to do so much. And looking at it now, I kind of thinking, is there really that much of a difference in maintenance between the two different styles? That's, like I said, what I want to go over today. So I'm going to hit some of these main maintenance topics, and I'm really going to show you, in my opinion, from what I've seen in my fish room, the difference between the two. But first, let's start off with water changes. Now, obviously, water changes is a controversial subject. That's not the point of this video here. Whether you do water changes, you don't do water changes, it's completely up to you. I personally believe water changes are an important part of our closed systems and aquariums we keep, but I'm not judging anybody. That's just my personal opinion. But that being said, when I had dirty tanks, I did water changes, okay? I did them probably once a month, once every 2 months tops typically, because I really felt the tanks needed that refreshment of water, not just the top offs. So how do I do it now with my tanks that are inert substrate and planted? Well, guess what? I do my water changes once a month. So there really is no difference in my water change schedule from dirty tanks to these. Sure, could I probably go a little longer with dirty tanks compared to these? Maybe, but if you have a heavily planted tank and your stock isn't absolutely crazy, there's no reason why you couldn't go a couple months if you could, being able to go without doing a water change if you really had to. Now, for the people that don't do water changes at all, obviously, yes, you're going to save a little bit of time by not doing water changes at all. But for me, I don't find that healthy for the system or the fish, but like, again, that's my personal opinion. So really, when it comes to water changes, if you are doing them with dirty tanks, is there really that much of a difference between the two? Now, it's different, I guess, if you have a normal inert substrate with no plants and you're heavily stocked. That's a completely different story. What I'm really talking about today is planted aquariums. Planted aquariums and inert substrate compared to dirty tanks, obviously, with plants. So that's the water change situation. Now, what about like plant trimming? Now, with plant trimming, there comes a few different things that comes along with it. Obviously, with dirty tanks, you're going to have so many more nutrients in that water column and within the substrate for the plants to grow. So yes, the plants are going to grow much faster with dirty substrate compared to the inert substrate. But what comes along with that? That means plant trimming. That means you're going to be trimming plants a heck of a lot more in dirted aquariums than you do the normal planted tanks. So with trimming, obviously, now you're going to be replanting them. And with replanting them, now you're disrupting that substrate. You're potentially knocking dirt into the water column, mold into the water column, and disturbing things and maybe screwing with your water clarity. Where with inert substrates with just regular plants, you don't have that. Yes, you're going to grow plants. I'm not going to say you can't, but it's going to grow at a slower pace, but you're still going to trim them. But when you want to put them back into your substrate, you're not going to have that mess that's going to come along with it. So in my eyes, really, the advantage in that point goes to the inert substrate of the normal planted tanks. But yes, you're going to grow plants faster with those dirty tanks, but you're going to be doing more maintenance with it, because I know for a fact when I did it, I was trimming just about every week plants compared to now, it's like maybe once a month. So there is a difference there, which in my opinion, advantage goes to the inert substrates with planted tanks. Now let's talk about filter maintenance. That would be the next subject. Now, this is another one of those topics, just like water changes, where some people use it, some people don't when it comes to the dirty tanks. Um, I started using filters when I first put my dirty tanks up, then I went away from filters, then I brought them back at the end. So in the end, really, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, whether you have sponge filters, you have hang in the backs or canister filters. Whether you have a dirty tank or a normal inert substrate tank, you're going to clean them regardless. If you don't keep filters, obviously, yes, you're going to save a couple minutes, but realistically, unless you have a fish room that's just enormous, how long does it really take to clean a filter? I know for myself, my sponge filters, I clean them once. I last cleaned them, when is it? I got a board up there. I cleaned them at the end of June. And right now, when I'm filming this, it's the beginning of September. So I'll probably clean them again maybe at the end of the month. I really look for my filters to see when they start to get clogged. I have sponge filters compared to that. Now, and really, how long does that take? It really takes, I have maybe like about 20 tanks down here with filters. That'll take me maybe 15 minutes to pull them out, rinse them out, and put them back in. If I have a hang on the back, same thing. Once I see the flow start to slow down, I'll pull out those filters, my material, biomedia in there, rinse them out, put them back in. It takes a matter of 5-10 minutes. Canister filters can take a little bit longer because there's so many different compartments to clean out, but that too. I mean, when I had a canister filter, it took me no more than like 15-20 minutes to clean that thing out. So it's really not that difficult of a thing to do, in my opinion, one way or the other. So filter maintenance to me is a wash. Now, what about fertilizers? Now, I know that's another thing that gets talked about with these dirty tanks, that you don't need to put fertilizers in your aquariums, and you don't, because your substrate is full of nutrients and it gets into your water column as well. And like I said, your plants grow tremendously with these dirty tanks, where with inert substrates, you're going to typically be putting your root tabs in or your water column feeding fertilizers in order to help your plants grow more successfully. So time consuming wise, if we're looking at truly low maintenance, truthfully, I mean, I put, it takes 5 minutes a week to put in my liquid fertilizer, and once a month I put in my root tabs. It takes about 10 minutes on that one weekend that I do that. So there is no difference time wise when it comes to maintenance as far as that goes. But if you want to look at it this way, obviously you got to think about it with a dirted aquarium. Now, not most, I don't know how to really say this, a lot of dirty tanks will, after about a year, start to deplete their nutrients in that soil. There are some people that get away with it without it. I've had a few. I have one over here that's over 5 years old that's still going strong. But a lot of my tanks after that year mark started to deplete a little bit. Now, if that's happening to you, that means you have all this dirt in your aquarium now, and you need to have some type of fertilization to be able to get your plants to grow. You're going to be putting fertilizer or root tabs within your aquarium eventually. Not everybody, don't get me wrong. I know there's people out there probably like, well, I never use fertilizer. That's fine. I'm just saying that there are people that are going to come across this. Not every single dirty tank is successful. And that is something to think about as well. But while an inert substrate, I'm putting fertilizers in from the very beginning, and I am keeping it even keel with my fertilizers the entire time, or especially with dirty tanks in the beginning, it is a hot box of nutrients. You can have things that just pop up from it, and with that comes algae. Now, with the algae, obviously, because of these dirty tanks having so many nutrients in the very beginning, especially, it's very everywhere. There is no balance when it comes to the nutrients in these aquariums. So algae likes to break out, and I witnessed this in just about every single one of my dirted aquariums. Mostly hair algae would just get over everything, and I'd have to go in there always and remove it. Where the planted substrate or planted tanks with just the inert substrate, yes, if you're watching my channel, I'm battling some of that right now in a couple tanks, but I just started these tanks all completely over. They're all like fresh and they're all balancing. That's going to work its way out. And that's why, again, back with the fertilizers, by fertilizing your tanks in the very beginning, you're putting a balance, a level of fertilizers in there the entire time. You're never going to have these spikes where you're going to have with dirty tanks. And that's where that algae likes to thrive and grow. And you can have that for quite a while in dirty tanks. So when it comes to the low maintenance part of it, you're pulling more algae out of your aquariums than you would a normal substrate. And that, in my opinion, goes back to the dirted substrate as being the negative when it comes to low maintenance. So really, in my opinion, dirted aquariums are no more low maintenance than a planted tank with inert substrate. I think really what's happening is you're really shifting the type of maintenance you do a little bit more compared to what we were doing. So like I've kept both. Like I said, I see no difference. I maintain them both the same. I really have no more time spent on one or the other. It's pretty much equal. I'm just doing a couple different things with one compared to the other. Now, if you want to talk about cost, that might be a little bit different story potentially. Now, obviously with dirted aquariums, you're not spending as much. You're pretty much spending close. If you're not putting fertilizers in your aquarium, so obviously you're saving a little bit of money there. But if your tank is one of those that after a year it gets depleted from your substrate, now what? Now you're going to have to buy fertilizers in order to continue to grow your plants, or you're ripping that whole substrate out and you're starting over. That's why I prefer the inert substrate. I do like dirted tanks. I will always like dirted tank. I think it's a really cool thing to try, but in the end, it is no more low maintenance than a planted tank with inert substrate. Let me know your opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are there some points that I maybe missed? Let me know. I'd love to have us a conversation going with this. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And as always, I hope to see you again here next time here at Patty's Aquatics.